Welcome back to another episode of Her Expat Life. We are the YouTube channel that is dedicated to bringing you informative, educational, and fun videos that help you manage your global lifestyle as a female who could be an expat, entrepreneur, or digital nomad, or someone who is exploring this way of life. Today, we are discussing a topic that a lot of people can relate to, and that is dating, especially dating for females, specifically those who are expats or who are dating outside of their home countries. And we have a very exciting guest with us today. I'd like to welcome Zuzana Spetsova, who's going to talk to us about this topic. She is a transformational psychologist, is also a dating expert, and an accredited coach. Zuzana combines her professional expertise, skills, and personal experience to help ambitious and independent women like yourself break away from unhealthy, self-sabotaging patterns that have been keeping them stuck so that they can be truly loved for who they are and attract and have healthy and secure relationships. Very, very important work. Zuzana, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for this lovely introduction, Alexia. I'm so excited to be here today with you and with our tribe of Her Expat Life women. And I'm really excited to dive into this topic because I'm an expat myself. So I have my fair share of experience. So I can share some of that as well. But having worked with tons of women all around the world, there are so many things that are relatable. So I'm really excited to look into that and perhaps talk about certain topics where I feel that sometimes as an expat woman, but in general, like you can feel alone, that you think you are alone in this when it comes to dating, and you may think that it happens only to you. Plus there is this additional level of being an expat, being in a foreign country, you may feel lonely, right? And you're not sure how to navigate these things. So I'm really excited to talk about and share certain tips and tools and what's normal and how to navigate things when you feel dating or relationships are not really going the way you would love them to, and perhaps also how to navigate these things while doing it abroad, because this in itself brings certain challenges, right, with navigating relationships.
So, Zuzana, let's start off with a little explanation. How did you get into doing what you're doing? How did you find yourself on this career path?
Thank you for this question. Well, it's been actually a combination of both things, because I've always been interested in how the human mind works and about learning and growing myself. And so it's been a combination of my kind of education, and I studied psychology, and then I was exploring other approaches, how else you can help people to kind of become more confident and self-empowered. And I came across coaching as well. So these are two approaches that I'm combining in my practice. But it was not only that, knowing how to help people, but it was also a combination of my own experience where I dated for nearly a decade and I couldn't find the right compatible partner, and I had lots of relationships, and majority of my dating happened in abroad, right? So, and I've used lots of online dating. Reflecting back, I found myself relying more, I think, on the outside circumstances to make me feel a certain way, but I wasn't aware of it at the time until I got to the point where I kind of felt that enough was enough, and I decided to change things. So I actually combined what I knew and what the knowledge I had from psychology and coaching, and I paused and I decided that I just want to feel different going forward. I want to attract different people, but at the same time it was still in this realm of an expat, because some of my really good friends were coming, going, and at some point quite high number of them left, so I felt quite alone. The rest of my family are abroad, so it was a combination of lots of these things. So I got to the point where I was working before with clients more on like general terms, but I guess it was the personal transformation that I undergone that really inspired me and showed me that things are possible, because I was the person who thought like I think I'm just going to be single for the rest of my life, and I thought this is probably I'm probably destined to be that way, and I didn't think it was possible. And I discovered it was possible, and I was actually very active and a part in creating the relationship and the 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 life where I am today, in my love life. All this inspired me to kind of share this with all the other women around the world, because speaking to them, I can see, like, I just want to share that we are not alone. You're not alone. Like, if whoever is watching this, we're not alone, and it is possible. But often we feel the opposite, especially due to challenging experiences, due to cultural differences, certain pressures that come with age as well. Like, I personally started being very stressed or a bit anxious about approaching my 30s. That's where my transformation started, because I thought I had to, kind of start being settled, and I was still single, and so on and on. Combination of my own experience and having gone through transformation and seeing that things are possible and I can have a loving, respectful, healthy relationship, in combination with what I know, I think that was something that led me to really creating practice where I can invite women into space, into safe, confidential space, non-judgmental space, where often they can share in the space something that they never feel that they could share with anyone. They can share their fears, and we together navigate this journey going forward, so that they can find the most compatible person for them, so that they can feel confident for the first time in their life, when they go either offline or online, and find the right person for them.
I'm sitting here shaking my head in agreement, nodding my head in agreement with you vigorously, because everything that you're saying, I deeply resonate with. And I know quite a few women who deeply resonate with this. So I think my next question for you is twofold. What unique challenges specifically do you think females who are expats experience in the dating scene? And what changes did you start making? What was the old Susanna's approach, and what was the approach that then worked for you?
That's a great question. And again, I feel like it's going to be so relatable. So, one, first and foremost, language, right? Language barriers, and which can cause quite a few challenges, like from misunderstandings and misinterpretations of what's being said. This can contribute to making meaningful connections quite difficult. I remember one of my days when I met someone who was really nice, but however, my language skills were elsewhere to that person's skills, and we just couldn't get each other's banter, and somehow I just felt that I couldn't fully express myself. So small things like this can affect how we go about dating and how we feel. Safety is another aspect, right? Like, culturally, safety and security can differ, and what are the cultural norms, cultural differences in terms of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, in terms of showing affection in public, for example, right? When it comes to commitment, when it comes to pace and dynamic of the relationship, right? So these are the things that a person can come across when dating abroad, especially in a different country or a different religion, different background, right? And it's about learning and exploring how to navigate these differences. Cultural differences, safety, language barriers, loneliness is another big one, right? That affects not just dating, I would say, but also building wider social network for yourself when you arrive, and from establishing that network, but then maintaining it and just finding your tribe, basically, that can affect how you feel about yourself, how confident you feel, and then that can transfer into dating. And if you feel like you're worthy, you're capable of actually going out there, meeting someone. But all these things I often connect it as well. That you can have this language element there where you may be learning the language, and some people, confident, even if they don't understand the grammar, they're just happy and they speak and they just practice. But other people then think, like I was one of them, where I really wanted to get the grammar right. So I was thinking about every single word, and that can make you feel self-conscious. And that's just one of the things that can affect how you show up, whether you feel fully authentic or whether there is some kind of doubt or fear. And it shows not just in what you say, but how you behave, how your body moves, right? So all these things are also then something that me and my clients explore, right? Like it's not just what we think. All these things is just it's quite complex and very interesting.
Yeah, what changes did you make? So old Susanna versus Susanna that found the love she was looking for. What was that transformation?
And I love how you phrased it, because this is one of the ways how I work with my clients. And that is looking at ourselves as the old version of me and the new version of me. This is something I personally applied. And specifically, this is a concept that I used for myself. I later on learned was a concept from one of my coaches, and it's a concept called be, do, have, right? So, first, it's about focusing on or getting clear on who do I want to be, right? So my old version of myself was insecure version, but I wasn't aware of it. I was just thinking, if I get into another relationship, that person will make me happy. I just need to find someone who is the best match for me, and all my problems will disappear. That was not the case. My old version of myself, or previous version of myself, was insecure. It was the version who was always a little bit on edge and who was, I would say, codependent in psychology terms, dependent on validation from outside. One of my core beliefs I had was, if I'm not in a relationship, I'm not good enough, I'm weak, I'm not significant, right? It was not true. However, that then fed into the fear and insecurity that made me choose partners that were not compatible with me, that made me do things like wait for someone for 2 weeks to just go for a very short date and really accommodate all my needs and the whole schedule to that person's needs. This is something what fear does to you, right? It definitely did to me. So that old version was an insecure version of myself. However, when I decided that I no longer wanted to feel that way, I then asked myself, okay, so how do I want to feel going forward? Regardless of whether I have a healthy relationship and happy relationship or not. I was around 30 at the time, and I asked myself, okay, so how do I want to feel? And the answer was very simple, and it was, I want to feel happy. But for each of us, feeling happy, and any person who's watching today, we can ask ourselves, so how do I want to go? How do I want to be going forward from now on, right? Whether it when it comes to not just dating, but when it comes to professional life, when it comes to health, right? Because when we get clear on how we want to be, then we can look into what do I need to do? Because we always do things that stem from how we are being. This is the thing that often when we do things, do things, and then we keep on coming back to the same thing we've always been doing. This is because our being, our identity remains the same, right? Those gremlins that in subconscious mind, they will always try and maintain the same habit, the same ways of thinking you and seeing yourself. So for me, it was deciding who did I want to be, and my answer was happy. This is very vague and very complex term, and it means different things for different people. Now, for someone, it can be, I want to be confident, or I want to be peaceful, whatever that is. Now you can start asking yourself questions. Well, what does that mean? But what's important is 100% commitment to that and 100% respect towards what you need and what that happiness means for you. Because before, I was able to say to myself, I would like to be happy, but one of the things that it was common for me with my previous version of myself was me actually not respecting myself. I wouldn't describe it that way before, but I was definitely not respecting my time, my space, and so on and on. So for me, it was getting clear on what I was not going to do. One of the things and hence why when I work with my clients, I personally don't think you have to date necessarily in order to become confident and better at dating. I personally took about a year and a half off the dating scene in order to become the version of myself that then I was happy to kind of present out there back on the dating scene, because I knew I can tell you how it sounded in my head. I said to myself, I am no good to anyone if I'm in this transition period, because I'm still not the version of myself that I know once I'm finally in that point, I'm going to be confident. I know I will pick only the good people for me, and I'll be happy to deal with the rejection. I'll just be happy. Doesn't matter what happened, because my previous version was very dependent on what the other person did, right? So if they rejected me, if they were not messaging me, I reflected it on myself and I felt like I was not good enough. But that was not the case. So what I did first was I deleted all the apps, I stopped dating completely. However, I focused on my transformation. And at the time I was going through breakup. So what I did for the first time in my life, unapologetically self-compassionate towards myself. And this is so powerful. And they showed up in things and in places like me crying after breakup. Previously I would say to myself, no, you just have to go on another date. You'll find someone new. It will be better. Whereas this time I was crying and I just allowed myself to cry. So fully respecting my emotions and my needs at the time, remaining present in the moment, not rushing. My previous version of myself, she was creating lots of pressure on herself. You're running out of time. You have to date another person. Go back to the apps, right? None of this allows you to reflect on your own patterns, on your own habits, let alone then change them if you want to do that, right? So this year and a half allowed me to do that. So allowed me to take time for myself. Really, I hired a coach, and she helped me to really challenge all those beliefs I had, give time to myself and just to myself rather than and create that validation and confidence from within. So I read a lot of books at the time. I really reconnected to people who I made sure I had a really strong support network around me. But I think the most important thing was that I put myself in the center of this, and I really went back to myself. What's important for me? What do I need? And I was respecting, and I'm still respecting these things to this date. But it was a process of doing small things every single day. So it was a very interesting journey. It was exactly like this, going from one version of me to a different version of me. So I love how you worded it.
Thank you. It's like an upgrading of software, yeah? So new experiences, you need to update the software and recalibrate a little bit, because at least for myself, after every dating experience, good or bad, however it might end, you do need to kind of unpack it and understand your role in the outcome of the situation, or which leads me to my next question, the underlying belief that I carry if there is a repetitive situation that keeps on popping up in my dating life. So my next question for you is, You spoke about the core beliefs that we carry, and a lot of these might be subconscious or things that people don't necessarily know that they believe, or might be scared to dig into those beliefs because sometimes they are tied into, or a lot of times I imagine they are tied into conditioning or things that we were taught in the home, or maybe traumatic experiences that we had to live through and built some kind of defense mechanism against it. So considering how painful this process could be, how does somebody get to their core beliefs, get to understand their true core beliefs, and hold themselves in a safe space at the same time?
Because I think, like with dating, especially if there is any kind of doubt or insecurity, this may completely stop us from doing exactly this. And this is the core part. And I just want to for a second go back to what you mentioned, and that's taking responsibility for your part. I think this is the key here. Looking, really taking time to reflect on, okay, what's my contribution here? Then and only then you're able to kind of get a sense of control. Not that we don't have control over many things, but you get a sense of choice, because when we focus on things on the outside, we feel like we can't control them. You can't choose who is going to swipe right or left on the dating app on your profile. However, you can choose how and what you're going to put into your dating bio, what pictures you're going to choose, how much time you're going to spend on the dating app, because this can be daunting. But if you can pace yourself, and this can be quite different. And last but not least, what you can choose any time of the day is your attitude towards online dating, towards dating in general, towards yourself, towards, other people out there, cultures, right? These are all the things we may or may not be aware, but they are all playing a very significant part in who we choose and how we show up. What was the question? I think maybe I deviated
No,
slightly.
it's perfect. How do we uncover our core beliefs,
Mhm.
holding ourselves in a safe space, considering that some of these might be difficult to deal with or might bring up things that we maybe don't necessarily consciously face?
There are different ways how you can do it. You can do it yourself, or you can look for someone who can help you with that, which is where a coach, a psychologist, therapist comes to place. One of the ways how you can do that and uncover what you personally think about yourself, about dating, men, women, different genders out there, right? Is simply take pen and paper and complete the sentence like dating is, and see what comes up. I am XYZ as a date. What, like, how do you see yourself as a date? Online dating is, what is it? Is it, some people may say it's very exciting, full of opportunities. Others may see it as very complicated, time consuming, useless, right? Like something they don't want to engage in, right? And we have different opportunities, so that's great. However, these are the beliefs that can come up simply with this kind of exercise. Or for example, having a healthy relationship is a challenge. It's easy, right? How would you complete these kind of things? So you can see what comes up for you. And then once you have these kind of sentences written down, what I would encourage anyone who's up for this exercise and this tool is to, again, perhaps take a different color or a different pen, and then ask yourself, is this statement a fact or is this my interpretation? Right? 9.8 out of 10, you discover that what you have just written down is actually your interpretation. And since that is your interpretation, that means there are other interpretations of that, right? So, for example, if your belief is that online dating is difficult, yes, it can be a fact, right? At the same time, you may see other friends around you who maybe someone got married to someone they met online, right? So what's actually different? This is where you can start challenging your own beliefs about this, right? Okay, so is it difficult? Is this fact for 100% of people around me, or is this a fact for me and some other people around me, right? This is where what I would bring is or encourage to explore is curiosity. We can be very judgmental towards ourselves and perhaps people on the outside, on the apps, or especially if something doesn't work out, we can start seeing ourselves as, and this is one of the concepts, there is a book from transactional analysis and it's called I'm okay, you are okay. We can fall into this mindset of I'm okay, but this person is not okay because we didn't like something. Or the other way, I am not okay because they rejected me, they ghosted me, but they are okay. That means like they will have lots of options, but I will be on my own. I'm not okay. I am not okay. So simply becoming aware of what kind of interpretations we are posing onto ourselves, but also what's happening on the outside. So this is one of the ways how you can start learning, first of all, what they are, because we can't change, you can't change it if you're not aware of them. So simply by looking at how, what opinions, what interpretations, what you talk about when you talk about dating, right? Or you can notice that in your friends as well. What do they talk about? What words they use when they talk about dating, when they talk about people on the dating websites, right? You can think like, oh, there's so much variety, or you can think everyone on a dating website lies, right? Or they just want one thing. Is this a fact or is this an interpretation? So this is the way how you can learn about your own beliefs and then start challenging them. And another thing which is quite helpful is to go through, you mentioned conditioning, like family background, our past experience, going through shoulds. What kind of shoulds do we carry? And what do I mean by that? When I date, for example, completing the sentence, when I date, I should be. When I'm in a relationship, I should or shouldn't do this, right? When I am online or online dating, when you're online dating, you should or shouldn't do what, say what, right? Again, is this a fact or is this an interpretation? Just being aware of what's happening in my mind, because as the beautiful kind of chain reaction goes, what I think affects how I feel, and then how I feel, and we've talked about being, it's like how am I being, then it makes you do certain things or it stops you from doing certain things. So if your thought is I online dating is difficult, and it makes you feel maybe disheartened, sad, um, resentful, how is that going to show up in your behavior? You may be going on the app, but you're spending 5 minutes, and but your underlying belief may be like, oh, there's no point. What's the point? No one is going to swipe right on me anyway. And everyone who swipes on my profile is not going to like me, or they will ghost me, right? Or like, so what's going to happen? The cycle will continue, right? You will attract and subconsciously choose people that will not make this work. Whereas the
Yeah.
opposite can happen when your thought is like, wow, I'm so excited, I have so much options, right? You will be excited, so you'll be much more in tune with what you want and how you go about it, and you'll swipe on different profiles, right? But how to go about it is something what, as I mentioned, what I practice, and that's knowing yourself. So taking really that time, self-reflect, and knowing on what do I value and what do I need right now. You know, if you, let's say, need and want casual relationship, be honest with yourself and be honest with someone who you're talking to, right? If you don't know what you want, that's okay too. Be honest with the person who is in front of you, right? Let's say maybe you just came out of a long-term relationship and you would love to have someone to cuddle with and, share your experience with again. However, you're still in the midst of processing that breakup. So you're not sure what you want. Just be honest with the other person. But it's respecting those things that are within you. What do I need right now? And also, how do I want to be in this process? You know?
Mm-hmm. I can relate so much with what you're saying. So I am turning 36 really soon, and I am single, and I haven't been in a serious relationship in probably over a decade, due to just moving around a lot and just traveling being a priority and unsuccessfully being on the dating apps. And I would say that turning 30 for me was a very difficult period in my life. Also considering I had turned 30 and a few months later, I think, or a year or two later, we were in the midst of COVID. So it was a difficult time generally. And I had some personal stuff that had happened in my life, but just turning 30 really freaked me out because I started listening to everybody's perceptions of what my life should have been. And I come from quite a traditional family where you can go and explore and have fun, but by 30, you should be married and working your way down to having some kids. And if not, then what's wrong with you, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I started absorbing those and not even realizing how much it was affecting me. And then that was laying the foundation of me dating from a place of scarcity. Like, I need this thing. I have to get this thing. I'm on a clock. Like, I need to figure this out. I've got limited time. And how are my friends all in amazing relationships? And I'm the single one. Something must be wrong with me. And then believing that, I then can imagine that I wasn't a very attractive person emotionally to be dating because you could clearly sense that I felt lacking in something. Even though I'm still single right now, I've been doing a lot of work on myself to really take my identity away from the ideas that other people put on me as to what I should and should not be doing with my life, and really be okay with my journey and be grateful for the life that I have. And I can very, very clearly see the difference in the quality of partners that I'm attracting. That they are much more aligned with the kind of person I am looking for, as opposed to who I was dating 4 or 5 years ago. And maybe I haven't found that person yet, but I do feel a lot closer to finding that person. And it just took unraveling in my head, what is my idea of myself and what is the idea of myself that I'm absorbing from the world around me. So yeah, I'm really resonating with what you're saying, because I can clearly see the difference in the type of man I was attracting from a hetero perspective, the type of man I was attracting, with the belief of, I need to find a man, I need to get married, something's wrong with me, why haven't I found a partner, am I ever going to have kids, to, hey, I'm happy, I'm enjoying my life. When I meet someone, it's going to be great, but not everybody's my cup of tea, and it takes time to filter through that. And also, what do I want? Because when I was younger, I was maybe embarrassed to say that I wanted a life partner, because it felt like, as an independent woman, I'm betraying myself to acknowledge that I want a serious committed relationship. But then I was attracting men who definitely didn't want serious committed relationships because I wasn't voicing my truth. And now I'm a lot more clearer in saying, I would like that. That is my goal. I don't need to get it to be happy, but that is what I would like. And I see the caliber, at least for myself personally, I'm attracting a different kind of man. So yeah, I think women at home, a lot of times we're scared to speak about these things because we're exposing our vulnerabilities, we're exposing the shadow parts of ourselves, we're exposing maybe the things that that we don't want to be used against us, if that makes sense, in the dating world. But it is very empowering to just say, this is what I want, this is what I need, and this is what I'm looking for. And my next question, Susanna, is with these boundaries that we need to develop. So someone's done the work and now they've developed the boundaries for themselves in terms of what they will and will not accept. How do we communicate that effectively? How do we show up with our actions? What do we do to make sure that we are clear about what we are looking for?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, and loads of what you said was very relatable to me as well. As I mentioned to you, like around my 30s, this is where I started feeling the pressure and the scarcity mindset you mentioned. Thank you for sharing that, and it sounds like you're doing all the necessary steps to get closer to that,
I
like,
hope.
and you can already see the results. Look, the thing is, when you do things, sometimes I say to my clients, or like the way I see it is, imagine a train track, right? So the train track goes to a certain destination, so that you doing certain things in a certain way, starting from how you think about yourself, how you think about dating, and so on, relationships. And then you do certain things. You go out there, you behave certain way, you dress certain way, you say certain things or don't say certain things. Like you said, you don't express what you want, right? But imagine you just start doing this slightly with a train track. You just deviate it like 5% and you start doing something different, just a tiny thing, one step at a time. You will get into a different destination. So what you're describing is no surprise to me. When you take that time to reflect on what's important for you, when you when you spend time building that confidence, expressing what you need, then you can see what comes out of it. Yes, there may be some rejection and pushback from certain people. It's normal. There is a Not everyone will be a compatible partner. In fact, like, let's say online, about 80% of people who are online are not your ideal partner. They are not compatible with you. So just bearing that in mind, that to be able to do a certain selection process fast is also a necessary step. So from what I'm hearing, you're getting closer and closer, and I love that, and I love hearing that, because it really resembles my own story, and I experienced exactly the same. As I said, I was dating for nearly a decade with unfulfilling relationships, and then once after my transformation, when I came back, it took me about 4 or 5 dates, compared to that decade of dating, and then I met my partner I'm with now, right? So you can date a lot if you want, but it's the quality of those dates that can change really rapidly if you allow yourself to kind of really come back to yourself and let the world know. So going back to how we let the world know,
Yeah.
how we let the dates know. So first of all, is going back to reflection and knowing yourself, because you cannot set boundaries and you cannot communicate something you're not clear on. And if you're not clear on something, if you're not clear on what you want, it will come across that way. You will be stumbling upon your words, or so it's getting to know yourself. What do I truly want? From the relationship, from the partner, where am I? What are my needs currently? Right? Another thing is knowing your communication style. And just super simple way of distinguishing is how you communicate these things. When it comes to communication, we may sometimes say, well, I said to my partner I didn't like it, or I set a boundary. But what we don't realize that we communicate in one of four ways. We either communicate passively, we communicate aggressively, passive aggressively, or assertively. So sometimes we can communicate things, however, they are being communicating in a passive aggressive way. And that obviously triggers the other person, unless they are emotionally mature and they can pick up on it and just reflect it back to you and let you kind of change that if you like. But it's simply knowing, how do I communicate, and have I actually communicated assertively with respect to the other person and myself, right? Or was I being passive? Did I just try and throw a hint and I'm expecting my partner or my date to pick up on it, right? One of the very common beliefs I hear from my clients, and many people can relate to, is, if he liked me, he would do XYZ, or
Yeah.
she would do XYZ, or they would do XYZ.
Mm.
Very common, right? This is something called mind reading. Yeah, one of the cognitive distortions. Well, we have, you mentioned one early on, and that was, especially, let's say, when you're approaching 30, or when at any point where you are and you may feel everyone around me seems to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
That's called generalization, right? We are suddenly seeing everyone in a relationship. That's not true, right? It's our interpretation. However, that kind of thinking makes us feel like we are the only particle in the universe, right? And it makes you feel very alone. Simply by challenging that, really? Do 100% I know 100% of people around me, they are in a relationship? Well, they are not,
Mm.
right? So just noticing what's coming up for you, but knowing what you need, then it helps you to communicate what you want. And I would really encourage those who are watching us today, listening to us today, literally, you can start from small things, because sometimes navigating relationships, it can feel like it's quite difficult and complex. Literally starting asking for what you need and what you want in small with small things that don't feel as emotionally charged. And here is, for example, small tool. Well, it's not it's a very powerful tool, but it's a very small thing you can do, and it's literally writing down things, what you enjoy, what you like to eat, what you like to wear, what you like to listen to, what kind of people you like to hang around with. Very simple, basic things we all come across and deal with in everyday life. And then practicing how you would express that to someone, even to your date. These are the kind of people that rock my boat. These are the people I love to hang around with. But it's really exploring, who are these people actually, asking yourself. So again, bringing that curiosity towards yourself, the food you like to eat. Because sometimes, especially if we are feeling self-conscious and insecure, we can deviate and start liking what our partner likes,
Mm.
and lose ourselves in that relationship. So how can I simply express that I absolutely love pizza and Italian food, right? How would I express that if my partner says, "Oh, I don't like pizza"? This is like learning how to deal with differences. For example, these are the small habits you can practice daily, even in
Mm.
normal situations with your family or friends, so that you develop this habit, this muscle of expressing what you need. And then you get to a dating situation and maybe conflict arises, or you really need your partner to maybe do something, you want to express that you need something. And because you've done it before, and you've practiced and you've practiced what it sounds like when you say it, and you practice
Mm.
that you can manage your emotions when you say it, then it's less scary. Obviously certain emotions are more emotionally charged, and they require different level of resilience. But because you practiced, you are much more prone to approach that situation with confidence. So really practicing on small situations. But what's more important and what I see often is, and what I help my clients with, because they do a big chunk of what needs to be done, saying what needs to be said. However, we are often not even scared to say, we often probably know what we want. If you don't, then you know how to now kind of get in touch with it. But if you know what you want, it's words when we say it, but we're often afraid of the reaction and the response of the person. And this is why many of us stop ourselves, because what's actually deep down, we're thinking ahead. What if this person leaves me? That's
Mm.
that's very common, right? What if I
Yeah.
show how I am? This person is going to go. So it's looking one step ahead, and not just one. Communication is one part of it, but it's the emotional regulation and learning how to
Mm.
navigate and kind of soothe your own emotions, whatever comes afterwards. Because especially with boundaries, and especially if you're brought up a people pleaser, for example, right? Setting boundaries and expressing what you want can be super scary, and you can feel guilty, very guilty, right? So it's learning to navigate that guilt and knowing that it's healthy to do that, and so on and on. So one part of it is communication, but what I find, and also work with my clients like hand in hand, is this emotional part and learning how to navigate the response afterwards. Yours, right? What's happening
Mhm.
within me? Am I freaking out, or am I just being calm? And the response of the other person, because you can get ghosted, you can have very receptive response, you can have a pushback, the person can challenge your whatever you need or your boundary, right? That's another like step of, how do I navigate this? How do I
Mm.
communicate effectively, and how am I able to like swim in these waters?
Mm. Mm. Again, I'm resonating with what you're saying, and I'm personally just thinking something that helped me feel more empowered in asserting my boundaries is when I had the realization that you can't pretend to be something you're not indefinitely. At some point, your authentic self is going to come through. At some point, this person is going to realize that you love pizza and that you don't hate it, and that you were just agreeing with them for the sake of wanting them to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
And if that takes 2 years to happen, how much more painful will it be? And how much of your own time did you waste in not being authentic? So now it makes me feel more empowered to just be more assertive with what I want initially, because I think I respect myself and my time. I don't want to waste my time with somebody who's not on the same page as me. And also, I respect the other person, that they have a right to understand what is for me and what isn't for me, because I don't want to waste their time either. So that helped me change the narrative of the fear of rejection, because before it was they rejecting me, I'm not good enough. And
Mm-hmm.
now I just see it as we're not compatible, is incompatibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken the sting out of the times where somebody goes, actually, you seem like a great person, but I can't see you romantically. I just don't see how this is going to work. Whereas before, that would have crushed what little self esteem I had. Now I'm like, okay, thank you for respecting my time, first of all. And it's just a compatibility thing. And like you said, it doesn't mean anybody needs to be the bad person or the wrong person. It's just you're not on the same page. And it just saves everybody a lot of time at the end of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that, oh, the words I keep on hearing with dating is, it's tiring, it's overwhelming, it's time consuming, right? Like you mentioned, like at the beginning, like we are busy. If you're in your productive years, and you like, maybe you may be going to work and you're busy, you're growing, evolving, maybe you're running a business, maybe you like to travel, right? we want to make sure that we're not wasting our time. And another level with dating is that it's emotional, right? So, and that involves that emotion is energy in motion, right? So it's energy, it moves, right? And sometimes we take time to recover from certain things. So absolutely, we want to make sure that we're doing it effectively, that we're not getting ourselves too tired or tired at all, right? That it's actually an enjoyable process as opposed to daunting one, and something where you feel like you're just getting lost and you getting lost like within yourself, because this is something that can happen. So absolutely.
Susanna, we are going to start wrapping this up, but there's one last question I have for you that I feel is very important, and it's something that I really want to bring up, and that is female expats in particular. How can they keep themselves safe during dating? Because you're already out of your comfort zone. You might not necessarily have that community and network where you're living, but you're going on dates, you're meeting people online. So, what are the basics, maybe some red flags to look out for, and what things should we put into place to be able to keep ourselves as safe as possible in the dating scene?
Hmm. Very important, very important. Well, there are a few things, and one of what I'll start here, for example, it's letting someone else know, like from your social network, perhaps a good friend, letting them know that you are going on a date. Nowadays, the phones are quite advanced. We can send the location. You can send a location to someone so they know exactly where you are at all times. Perhaps give them a details where you are, which cinema are you going to, which park are you going to. Another thing is meeting the other person in a public space. So avoiding spaces like dark, empty alleys, meeting way too late in the night, unless you're feeling comfortable and you're really going to public space, which, for example, in London is possible. There are very busy spaces even in the middle of the night. However, meeting someone in public spaces, things like having your phone fully charged, things
Mm,
we may not consider at all. But nowadays, batteries can run out. Maybe
mm,
carrying a power bank with you. I sometimes do that often, right? So things like this we may not consider. Another thing is the place where you're going to, considering what are the means of transport from that place. Sometimes we may be going to a remote place or somewhere where you're not entirely sure how you're going to get back from. So perhaps doing a research for yourself will help you to keep a peace of mind. You know, one thing that came up for me, safety and security, when it comes to intimacy. Sometimes, sex on the first date, how to keep yourself safe, right? There is your part in that, and there is your date's part in that. So consider what is your part in keeping yourself safe. You know, for example, if you want to use protection, what can you do? You can bring the protection with you, right? And so these small things, because sometimes we can pose that responsibility onto another person, and we can become bitter if they don't have, for example, if they don't have condoms and stuff like that. So it's also your part. So if you know you want to be safe, consider what is your part in keeping yourself safe,
yeah.
right? So it's just one part that popped up for me. So these small things, and so we said the location, the phone, sharing it with your friend, um,
Time of day to take
time
into
of day,
consideration,
definitely,
transport.
and absolutely, and just trusting your gut, I would say. When you're talking to someone, one of the questions I keep on getting is like, how do I know it's the right time to meet the person in real life, right?
Mm,
And what I would say, this is very individual. Again, check in with yourself. What do I need in
mm,
order to feel safe? What do I need to see, hear, and feel to
mm,
feel safe? For example, I can tell you I don't know why it crossed my mind the other day, but it was a nice memory. I was thinking how I used to date. I did a fair share of online dating, and
mm,
I really like to talk to the other person for at least a week or two. For some people, this can be a very long time. Some people prefer to just connect and go on a date and see where the chemistry is there. For me, that was not the case. So, going back to respecting your own needs, just because your friend or someone you know prefers to meet the other person in real life, that doesn't mean that's something you need and feel comfortable with. Providing your past experience, there may have been trauma you had, bad experience, something you've learned, traditions, something you believe in. It's going back to respecting what do I need from this person, but also from myself. What do I need to know? Are they being consistent in the communication? Are they being clear? Do I feel like they are covering something? These are some of the red flags, right? On the dating profile, for example, are you able to see who this person is? Do they have various pictures? Do you feel like they are respectful of what you're saying? Perhaps needs you're expressing, as we've talked about needs, right? Do you feel they are pushing back, or they are challenging what you're saying? Or do you feel like you can express yourself around them? If you already feel that something is off online, right? Trust your
mm,
gut, right? And what comes to mind now is what you mentioned previously, scarcity, and just watch what your mind is doing. If it's because sometimes, even when and this is another common thing, what keeps on happening, that we kind of gaslight ourselves into thinking that it's just me making things up. I'm being over dramatic. And then you go onto a date with someone you haven't felt right about in the first place. So, what can play the part is that scarcity mindset and thinking, oh, I'm 30, like I should really get going, right? The time is ticking, right? And we feel, and also if he doesn't, we really try to kind of squeeze the round peg into the square hole, right? And we can kind of ignore all the red flags that there are because we feel in this scarcity mindset, we have these thoughts that I will never find anyone again. Well, I resonate with this person around these areas. Yes, they are not respectful and they are not consistent, but they also like pizza, and like, oh, like I love food, right? This
yeah,
is
yeah,
it.
yeah.
However, we can find ourselves because of scarcity mindset to do these things to ourselves. So just being aware of this. So just really letting other people know, but also looking at our part, what we can do around this space, and watching out for how we feel,
Mm,
when we date, and knowing that you can say no at any point. That's your power, so to speak. But again, this goes back to learning and allowing yourself to say no, but also say yes, to express, no, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and really practicing in small things so that when you face more challenging situation, you are feeling more confident to get out of it, because confidence comes from competence, right?
mm,
It comes from setting boundaries, communicating your needs, um, dealing with rejection. How
yeah.
competent do you feel to deal with rejection on the dating app, or when someone just doesn't reciprocate the look, right? Or touch, right? the more we do it and the more we learn how to navigate in a healthy way, the more confident we become, right? And that comes with practice. So small changes, small incremental changes, so that eventually you find yourself, like yourself or myself, attracting different people, because it happens naturally. It happens through you, tweaking those small things and really doing tiny changes you may not even realize, but suddenly you find yourself saying certain things, doing certain things. Yeah. So all this is kind of adding to how you show up in dating, how safe and confident you feel. Right.
Amazing. Susanna, how can people get hold of you? How can people reach out to you?
So I'm quite active on Facebook on my personal page. And if you want regular tips and tools on how to date smart, not hard, you can join my mailing list and our relationship success hat. I believe we're going to be sharing the link to access that under this video, and then you can look and learn more about me on my website, www.zuzannaslepesova.com, and then you can book a call with me from there. There are different buttons where you can follow. You can see the results of many of my clients, and I work together. And yeah, so there are different options how to reach out, and I'll be looking forward to hearing from those who are ready and open to up level and upgrade their love life and finally feel confident about dating and meet the right person for them.
Amazing, amazing. Just a reminder for those at home, Susanna is a partner of Her Expat Life. So if you join our membership program by visiting our website, herexpatlife.com, you will also get some discounts on Susanna's offerings. And not only hers, but a host of other partners that we have, from co-working to co-living spaces abroad, yoga studios, beauty salons, you name it, our partners are there. So visit herexpatlife.com, visit the membership page, register, and enjoy discounts from a whole range of our partners. Also, just a reminder, we are launching an app soon. Keep posted to our Instagram page to find out more details on that. Make sure you click subscribe to our channel, and please comment. Tell us, what did you think of today's discussion? Do you have any follow-up questions? We would love to have Susanna back for another chat, because we really just scratched the surface of this very complicated, or not just complicated, but very deep topic that we could really talk about endlessly. So if you have anything in particular that you'd like us to talk about, if you loved what we said, if you disagreed with us, whatever it is, please share. Please do tell us your thoughts. And yeah, I want to extend a very big thank you, Susanna. Thank you for taking the time to chat to us today, to share with us your expertise, and to just, I hope, really help some women out there feel more empowered in the dating world and in the decisions that they're making for themselves. So thank you. It is appreciated.
Thank you very much, Alexia. Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and I'll be looking forward to any comments to our discussion, and perhaps seeing you and our audience again and answering more questions about dating, relationships, and how to create meaningful connections abroad as an expat. So yeah, looking forward to that.
We'll definitely need to have you back, Susanna. So for those at home, just a reminder, drop us messages or comment section. Please let us know how you feel and tell us what you would like us to chat about next time. We are privileged and honored enough to have Susanna back. Until then, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We have a host of videos covering a range of topics, from dating to life coaching to bureaucracy, digital nomad visas. Have a look on our channel, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, Susanna.
Thank you. Bye.